law effectively killing the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution as we know it. There will be no such thing as online privacy anymore for any citizen. And this seems to be just the beginning, as the government today has taken total executive control over Google, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and various other online.
Clearing the price of the drinks using this technology. How do you see that? That's about just getting rid of the middleman in financial transactions.
Yeah, I mean, so part of the genius, if you will, of cryptocurrencies is that, as we all know, they're distributed. They cut out the central banks, they cut out the banks, and they're ideally directly peer-to-peer between you and I. And so the challenge for payment systems is to move in that direction, so we can instantaneously move money from my account to your account to the publican's account, the guy who runs the pub, directly. And what we're doing at the Bank of England is we're reorganizing the core of the system in a way that allows new payment providers to just plug in. They could be using distributed ledger technology, they can use other technologies, and we're in a position where these innovative so-called PSPs will be able to provide those types of services. You're seeing similar innovation amongst banks in the US, other places, and so this is coming, and as I say, that's the challenge that we have to meet. We have to meet the challenge of what these cryptocurrencies are trying to do. They're not doing it that well, but they do point the way to the future.
We'll talk a bit about what you said about regulation of crypto, but I just want to go back on that a little bit, because you talked about this is the thing you're most positive about to do with cryptocurrencies is getting rid of these very high transaction costs in effect that we have from these day-to-day transactions. If you're JP Morgan or any financial institution, you're basically saying you think the most positive thing about this technology is it can get rid of all the profits that you make as a financial intermediary. Is that basically where you're going?
Well, I'm not going to speak for individual financial institutions, but I think the best of the financial institutions can see the direction of where the payment system is going to go. In a market,
which means making a lot less money.
A lot less money from payment system, maybe more money from understanding their customers better, more money from from providing other core banking services. But look, payment costs are going to keep going down. The profits from this business, I would expect, will go down, and the service to customers is going to improve. That's a good thing, and it's always been the case in financial services that the banks and non-banks innovate. This innovation, the cryptocurrency innovation, is pushing others. It's certainly this.
Proposed this summer, so he launched the idea of a digital currency promoted by a network of central banks to challenge the hegemony of the dollar and replace it as the international reference. So I would like to hear a comment on your side on what could be the impact and what kind of response the ECB could give. Thank you.
On your first question concerning the green bonds, I believe that the EIB is already a significant issuer of green bonds, and my understanding is that the ECB on the secondary market is also purchasing some of those products, and the threshold to which it can subscribe to those green bonds is not the 33% that applies to other bonds issuance, but it's 50%. So it allows it to actually oversubscribe relative to other subscription of bonds, and I think that it's good. I was also very pleased to see that Ursula von der Leyen has actually actively promoted a Green Deal, whether it's a new Green Deal or Green Deal, but she certainly is of the view that those issues are of critical importance, and I share that concern. On the cryptocurrency and the proposal articulated by Mark Carney, I was also very interested and intrigued by his proposal. And given the constant development that we have, given the, in a nutshell, for those who did not have time to read the Mark Carney speech, he essentially proposes that some of the key central banks actually form a venture, and that they explore together the formation of a joint central bank currencies. In other words, in a way, applying the principles that are on the mind of the Libra conceptors, having an instrument that is convertible into various sovereign currency. Mark Carney is proposing something that is similar in nature, but issued by the central banks themselves, which has some really interesting ramifications. So I hope we can explore it, and I cannot prejudge on
underlying currencies. What happens if that basket is rebalanced, and what happens to the prospect of it potentially being rebalanced to the stability of the system? How are the revenues generated? I mean, these are all questions that Libra and others are trying to work through, or looking to work through, but how do the revenues cover the costs of the system? And then in terms of the actual everyday functioning of the system, how is the KYC questions and all the associated AML, anti-money laundering, counterterrorism financing issues addressed? Do you just know the individual when they enter? Can they be tracked on a wallet-to-wallet if it's exchanged on between wallets by different providers? How does that knowledge? On one level, you want that knowledge. Certain authorities want that knowledge. On another level, from a privacy perspective, there are limitations on the provision of that. I mean, there's a host of very large issues that need to be resolved.
Global liquidity to any market, any country, any place, anywhere. Fully exchangeable to any currency, asset, or commodity. Transactions are settled in 4 seconds. XRP is traded 24/7, 365 days a year, everywhere in the world. Removing friction from global trade, removing barriers, removing borders. XRP transfers value anytime and all the time. From you to any place on Earth.